Welcome back to 100 Authors in 100 Days, where we share the powerful stories behind some of the most inspiring books in our community and the stories behind the stories. I'm Adriana Rosales, and today we have a truly compelling story to share, one that speaks to the heart of resilience, motherhood, and the pursuit of dreams. Joining us is Iris V. Fernandez, the author of Perseverance, The Bridge to a Latina Mother's Dream. Her memoir spans decades of challenges, growth, and triumphs as she navigated life as a Latina teen mom in the South Bronx, ultimately achieving her dream of becoming a nurse while raising her two children. She's also a Columbia University grad in nursing informatics. Iris, thanks for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing today? How's New York?
I'm very well. It's nice weather today. It doesn't feel like fall.
That's great. We just started having really good weather here too. We went from like 120 degrees in the desert to like 80, 70. So it feels really nice. So let's just jump right into it. And I'm going to, ask you a series of questions because we all want to know more about your book. I know you just launched the ebook, and you have the paperback out, and you have the hardback as well. Your book can be found in bookstores across the globe. Your Barnes and Nobles, your mom and pop shops, and you can tell us a little bit about that at the end. But I want to ask you the very first question. And today, our audience wants to know. Your memoir is beautifully captures your journey from South Bronx to university life. Can you share with us a pivotal moment that really tested your perseverance and how you found the strength to push through?
It's I have several pivotal moments, but the first one that that I can really speak to is actually in chapter 5, when I had my second child. She was only 3 months old, and I was in the Bronx visiting my mom so she could spend a little time with her. And I went to Fordham Road, which is not too far from where my parents lived. And I walked over, and even though I could have taken a bus. But on the way back, I stopped off at a little store to buy little sandals for my little 3-month-old. And on the Grand Concourse, which is like a very large avenue, I hear a very loud voice, and it's the baby's father yelling obscenities and screaming. And this is my neighborhood where people know me. And I'm thinking, what is wrong with him? He was upset because I had walked to and from Fordham as opposed to taking the bus and getting back in time. And he was yelling because I was a liar and a bee and all kinds of things. And what I decided to do was, since I still had to walk in his direction to get to my mother's house, I crossed over to the street to the local pizzeria because it was a local police hangout. And I knew he wouldn't do anything as long as the police were there. And that worked out just well because he disappeared somewhere. And I kind of rushed over back to my mother's house. And that was a moment that I said, I can't live like this. I can't have my children living like this. And I remember my sister having said to me, the day that you want, I'll help you. She lived in Connecticut at the time. She said, I'll help you, but he can't be in the picture. So I went to my mother. I went to my mother and I said, Mom, can I have money for the Metro North? I'm out of here. So we left with the diapers and my breast, because my baby was still breastfeeding, and my son and the clothes that he had. And we took a cab to 125th Street and took the next Metro North to Connecticut. That was a aha moment. I said, no, I'm not going through this. I didn't grow up in this environment with domestic violence or someone trying to control me, and I'm not going to put my children through it. So that was a pivotal moment.
Wow. Thank you for sharing.
You can read about it in chapter 5 of the book.
Chapter 5, everybody. That's really amazing that you're so brave to share the details. I mean, of course, I read your book and I'm intimately involved with the process of your publishing, but the fact that you would write all of those details and share those moments. And I love the way you write because you are very detailed, and it was like if I was there. And it's,
thank you.
I think it says a lot about you that you're willing to share, the raw moments, because in that sharing, someone may read it and may say, hey, we all have these pivotal moments that we come across, and we can choose one way or the other, but we all have the strength to choose what's best for us, right? Or best for our children. It sounds like you chose best for your children and yourself, of course. So thank you for sharing that. That's I remember reading it, but right now when you were describing it, and you crossing over to the pizzeria and stuff, I didn't get I didn't know that that was like a police hangout or anything like that, but that, that would make sense because you felt like your life was threatened. So that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. So our next question is, so your story touches on such important themes like family, love, overcoming domestic violence, and the power of education. So how did your Puerto Rican roots and the support from unexpected mentors shape your journey? And what advice would you give to others trying to overcome similar challenges?
I think the most important thing is that my mom, who came from Puerto Rico on a plane, and my dad came on a boat. They met when they were here in New York. They instilled so much love in my growing up, and my mother was such a tenacious woman. Um, she was always, if she wanted to unscrew a cap or something and it was giving her trouble, she would just say, "No, it's going to open because I say so, because you're soy Virginia." and I kind of like embodied a lot of that. We joke around about it when we're trying to make decisions and we want to do it and we want to do whatever it is that we want to do. Oh, soy Virginia. And it's my middle name anyway. But a lot of to answer your question, I think a lot of what I brought into this was that background from my parents, but I was blessed and fortunate to have people who appeared from the nethers. They just came and they helped me whenever I needed it the most. And I wasn't afraid to say, you know what, I think I do need some help. I can't do this by myself. And I think that's what I bring from that culture and from the people that were in my surroundings when I went to the school and had mentors there and friends that helped out. I think that was the crucial answer to your question.
Oh no, yeah, that's a beautiful answer. And of course, because I know you've written before in the Latinas 100 project, and so I'm familiar with the stories that you've shared. And so through the stories, I've gotten to know like your dad and who he was, and your mom, and yeah, it's true. You write about all this love that you felt growing up, and the fact that your parents are very caring and nurturing towards you. So it shows, that, and a lot of times, and I would venture out to say that in that pivotal moment where you had to make a decision whether or not you cross the street over or, and asked for help, that, that internal knowing that your parents had raised you to know what love is, that itself helped you make the best decision for you. And so I love hearing the stories about parents and how they contributed to a person's life, because a lot of times, a lot of grown-ups fail to acknowledge their parents, and really they have a lot to do with the guts that one eventually has during their life, And so I see and hear, and I've read a lot about your parents, and so here we are. You published a book.
We carry them in our souls.
Yes, absolutely. And that comes through. There's always a little piece of them that comes through in our work, and especially as writers, as you know. So I appreciate you sharing that, and that you honor your mother by mentioning, how much of a help and how much of a guide she was to you. Is there any other, like you mentioned here, mentors? Is there any particular mentors that you can think of?
Yes, the one that I actually mentioned in the book is when I was in Southern Connecticut State University. It's a state university. They used to have affirmative action at the time, and the director of affirmative action was also a female track coach, a track coach for females, and he was just absolutely wonderful and caring and supportive. And to this day, I think he only recently retired, and he's in his 80s. Until this day, I still see things on Facebook of so many people that he's whose lives he's impacted on, and he was very, very instrumental. I'll never forget him.
Yeah. Does he know that you wrote a book?
He does know, but I suspect that maybe he's not as with it anymore. I think somebody else does his, when I first publicized it, he said, "How do I get it?" And he never responded. When I messaged him back and I said, "Okay, you can find it here," and he never
Oh,
responded. So I don't know that but, and I told him, I said, I followed your advice. He told me back then in the 80s that his grandmother wrote a book when she was like in her 60s or something. And he
oh
was
wow.
always saying, "You have to write your story. You have to write your story." And he said
Oh
that way
wow.
back then when I was 30.
Yeah. And it wasn't common back then, especially now for Latinas to be publishing their own
Yeah.
books. So that's quite interesting. That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that.
Yes.
That would be neat if he does circle back to you, right? And you
Yes,
guys can have.
I keep trying to find a way to find. I see little stories about him, like his anniversary. He's married to his childhood sweetheart, and
Oh
he's a
wow.
really tall man, and his wife is a tiny little thing. She's like up to his waist. They're just beautiful.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing that. So our next question is, one of the most empowering aspects of your memoir is your role as both a mother and a student. What message do you hope Latina mothers, especially those struggling with their own dreams, what do you want them to take away from your story?
It's in my little logo. Si se puede. I know si se puede means different things to different cultures and different, but for me it means that if it's in your heart, you can do it. You really can. And it's actually chapter 10, the quote that I used. I really chose these quotes specific to these chapters.
Mm-hmm.
And for chapter 5, that one about the escape, I quote it, and I really believe this: "Listen to your heart and trust the direction you're being pulled. Something inside you already knows what to do." And that's a quote by Spring Washam. And I really believe that you have to follow your spirit, your gut, whatever your gut is telling you, follow it, because it's the truth. And I think that's my biggest advice that I can give.
Wow, that's powerful. So powerful. Follow your gut, everybody, because it's the truth. So I love that. So you wrote a lot of good stuff and a lot of interesting things in chapter 5. So y'all, when you get the book, go directly to chapter 5. So, right. So Edie, your story is truly a testament to the power of resilience and determination. So before we wrap up, I want to ask you a final question. And what is one thing that you want readers to feel after they finish your book? I know that we talked about what the message is, and si se puede, and you can achieve, and never giving up. But what do you want them to feel after they read the book?
I want them to see that if this little Puerto Rican girl from the projects, from the South Bronx projects, could evolve into a registered nurse who took care of many people, I want them to feel inspired and empowered. I want them to feel that no matter what, they can make it. They have to see it. They have to believe it. They have to believe in themselves.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. So thank you, Edie, for sharing your incredible journey with us. For everyone watching, Perseverance, the bridge to a Latina mother's dream, is available now. I encourage you to grab a copy, not just for the inspiring story, but for the invaluable life lessons it offers. To our viewers, Edie's story is not just a book, it's a movement. If you're facing your own struggles, whether in motherhood, career, or just in life in general, I challenge you to take the first step towards your dream, no matter how impossible it may seem. Share this video, leave a comment with your biggest takeaway, and most importantly, take action in your own life. Perseverance is the bridge to your dreams, and Edie's is a living proof. Thank you for joining us at 100 Authors in 100 Days. Stay tuned for more stories that will inspire, empower you to take charge of your destiny. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Edie.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everything.